ever said a sentence in English, felt totally confident about it, and then later found out it was actually wrong the entire time?
Constantly. And honestly, that happens to native speakers too, not just learners.
Today we're covering common grammar mistakes, the ones that show up again and again, even among learners who've been studying English for years.
This episode is going to be a little different from our usual deep dives into psychology and research. Today, it's pure practical English. Real mistakes, clear corrections, and simple explanations.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Mia.
And I'm Daniel.
Let's get straight into it because we have a lot of ground to cover today.
The list of items are on the table. I mean, just say that out loud to yourself. The list of items are on the table.
It sounds totally fine.
It really does. For a lot of you listening, that sentence probably just, slid by without setting off any alarms. It sounds perfectly natural.
Oh, absolutely.
But lurking inside that completely normal sounding sentence is this systemic structural failure. And that is what we are hunting today.
Yeah, it's kind of the linguistic equivalent of a beautifully designed smartphone app.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Right, like the interface is gorgeous, the buttons are sleek, but the moment you try to actually finalize a task, the screen just freezes.
Yeah.
You can't see the flawed source code, but you definitely experience the crash. Grammar basically functions as that unseen code running beneath every single conversation we have.
Which brings us to the mission for this deep dive. Looking at this fascinating stack of articles, linguistic research, and practical guides you brought us, we are unpacking the most persistent, universally frustrating bugs in the English language code.
The ones that catch everyone.
Exactly. The traps that snag everyone from dedicated learners to confident native speakers who have spoken English their entire lives.
Yeah, we all do it.
And just to set the tone for you, the listener, the goal here isn't to make you hyperanalyze every single syllable you speak.
Far from it. I mean, the objective is really structural awareness.
Right.
When you understand the architecture of the language, like why certain words demand certain behaviors. In other words, you just gain total command over your communication.
It's empowering.
Exactly. Whether you're drafting a crucial pitch deck for the boardroom or, just debating movies at a coffee shop, understanding the mechanics just removes that anxiety of wondering if a sentence sounded weird.
So to debug this system, we have to look at the foundational architecture first, like the absolute bedrock of a sentence.
Right, how subjects and verbs lock together.
Yes, and how they anchor us in time. Which brings us right back to that opening sentence. The list of items are on the table.
The classic.
Why does our brain so happily accept items are when it is fundamentally incorrect?
Well, we fall into what linguists often view as a working memory trap.
Okay.
As you speak or read a sentence linearly, your brain is holding words in its temporary RAM, basically.
Yeah.
And when it finally reaches the verb, it looks for the closest available noun to attach it to.
Ah, the nearest neighbor.
Exactly, the nearest neighbor phenomenon. The word items is sitting right next to the verb are, so the brain just takes the path of least resistance and matches them up. Plural noun, plural verb.
But the sentence isn't actually about the items?
No, it's not.
The core architectural pillar, the true subject, is the word list. And the items are just modifiers of that list.
Precisely. The list is a singular entity. You have to trace the sentence back to its root architecture.
So the corrected code must be, the list of items is on the table.
Yes. You have to consciously bypass that distracting plural noun sitting in the middle.
I see this constantly with phrases involving groups. Like someone will say, one of my friends are visiting this weekend. Oh, all the time.
The brain hears friends are and just signs off on it, but the actual subject is one.
Right, and one is singular, so it absolutely must take is, one of my friends is visiting.
It requires just a tiny moment of cognitive override, right? To ignore the nearest neighbor.
Yeah, just a split second to honor the true subject.
So once that core subject-verb relationship is locked in, we have to place that action on a timeline.
And English slices up time in some very peculiar, highly specific ways.
It really does. The tension between the past simple and the present perfect is a perfect example of this.
Right, because they serve entirely different philosophical purposes.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, the past simple is for a completed event anchored to a specific defined moment in history, like the door is firmly closed.
I visited Paris last year.
Exactly. The timeline is cut off. It's done.
But then you introduce the present perfect like, I visited Paris, and you drop the time marker entirely.
Right, because the present perfect isn't really about the past event itself. It's about your current state of being. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it connects the past action to the present moment. By saying, I have visited Paris, You're essentially saying, I am currently a person who possesses the experience of visiting Paris.
Wow, it's a bridge between a past action and your present identity.
Exactly. Which explains why mixing the two systems creates such a profound crash.
Right, when someone says, I have visited Paris last year, they are fundamentally breaking the logic of time.
Yeah, they're trying to keep one foot in a highly specific closed-off past moment while placing the other foot in an open-ended present state of being.
The language simply cannot support that contradiction.
It can't. You must choose your timeline. Either close the door with, I visited Paris last year, or keep the bridge open with, I have visited Paris.
That concept of how we map time directly bleeds into the confusion between since and for, doesn't it?
Definitely. Both are time markers, but they measure reality in completely different ways.
How so?
Think of it like navigating a map. Since requires a pinpoint GPS coordinate on the calendar or the clock. It needs an exact origin point.
Like since 2020 or since Tuesday.
Exactly. Since 8 a.m.
Right.
But for, on the other hand, measures the distance traveled.
Okay.
It is purely about duration.
Okay.
For 5 years, for 3 days.
So the common mistake of saying, I have lived here since 5 years, fails because you are feeding the system a duration when it actually requires a starting coordinate.
Right. The underlying mechanism of the word since is looking for a dot on a timeline, and 5 years is a stretch of string. It just doesn't compute.
That makes so much sense. Let's push this even further. What happens when we step off the real timeline entirely and enter, imaginary time?
The conditionals.
Yes. This is where we start shifting realities and the cognitive load really spikes.
Well, English handles shifting realities in tiers. The first conditional deals with a highly realistic future, like, if it rains, I will stay home. Action and probable consequence.
Right. Very straightforward.
Then the second conditional steps into daydream territory, a hypothetical present or future. If I won the lottery, I would travel the world.
But the absolute danger zone for the unseen code is the third conditional.
Oh, for sure.
This is when we are talking about hypothetical past situations that never actually happened, the realm of regret or alternate history.
And the psychological trap here is overcompensation.
What do you mean?
Because the speaker is dealing with an event that never occurred in the past, they often double up on the hypothetical markers. You'll hear people say, if I would have studied harder, I would have passed.
They use would have twice.
Exactly.
It feels like they're trying to emphasize the imaginary nature of both halves of the sentence.
They are, but structurally, the condition itself, the if clause, must be anchored firmly in the past perfect tense. You have to establish the alternate reality before you can introduce the hypothetical result.
So the correct architecture is, if I had studied harder, I would have passed.
Right. If I had studied...
It's a subtle adjustment, but it creates a solid foundation for the imaginary consequence to stand on. Moving on from the architecture of time, we inevitably crash into the things that actually populate that time, the nouns.
And the incredibly complex ways we modify them.
The most counterintuitive concept here for a lot of people is how English categorizes the physical world into countable items versus uncountable masses.
This is a huge hurdle.
Because logically, in the physical world, I can point to a chair, a sofa, and a desk. That is 3 distinct things. But in the matrix of English grammar, they belong to the uncountable mass noun furniture.
Right.
You absolutely cannot say furnitures.
The language treats words like furniture, information, and advice as solid, indivisible substances. You can't put a boundary around them.
So you can't have an advice or 3 informations.
No. To interact with them as single units, the code requires you to attach a quantifier phrase, like a piece of advice.
Or an item of furniture.
Exactly. And because they function as a single mass, they force the verb to be singular. The information is helpful. Never the information are helpful.
And this categorization creates the battleground for one of the most universally broken rules in casual English, doesn't it?
Oh, you mean fewer versus less?
Yes.
The logic here is ironclad. Even if daily usage completely ignores it, fewer modifies countable things. Fewer apples, fewer cars.
Right.
But less modifies uncountable masses. Less water, less anxiety.
Which means the express lane at almost every single grocery store, the sign that says 10 items or less is actively committing a grammar crime.
It really is.
Items are distinctly countable.
Yeah, from a strict architectural standpoint, it should absolutely be 10 items or fewer. But retailers prioritize the brevity and casual flow of less.
Still, understanding this distinction is crucial for precise formal communication, right?
But using fewer correctly with a countable noun instantly signals a high level of linguistic control.
Okay, let's look at another modifier system that feels invisible until it's missing. The articles. A, an, and the.
Yes.
Some languages function perfectly without them, so they can feel like completely unnecessary friction to learners.
They are the anchors of English nouns. But the rules governing them are often taught really poorly.
Give me an example.
Consider a versus an. The standard classroom rule is an before a vowel, a before a consonant. But that is a visual rule being applied to an auditory system.
The mechanics of speech dictate the rule, not the spelling on the page.
Exactly. It is entirely about phonetic flow. We say an hour because the H is silent.
All right. Right. The vocal cords immediately produce a vowel sound.
Yeah, so the N in an creates a necessary bridge so the sounds don't awkwardly bump into each other.
But conversely, the word university starts with a vowel letter, but phonetically it begins with a hard consonant Y sound.
So it demands a university. The ear always overrules the eye.
That's a great way to put it. And then there is the psychological progression from A to the.
Right, the progression maps our shared knowledge. A or an brings a completely new entity into the listener's awareness, like, I saw a dog in the park.
You didn't know about this dog until just now.
Exactly. But once that entity is established in our shared reality, the code shifts. We move to the dog was very friendly.
And the fatal error is removing those anchors entirely. Like a sentence like, I am teacher, feels jarring because a singular accountable noun is just left floating in the void.
It requires that article to anchor it to reality. I am a teacher.
Now, if we really want to talk about invisible architecture, we have to look at the cognitive load of adjective order.
Oh, this is a fun one.
This blew my mind in the source material. There is an unspoken, unwritten hierarchy for how we stack descriptive words.
There really is.
The sequence is, get this, opinion, size, age, shape, color, origin, material, and purpose. 8 tiers.
It's intense.
Leading to the absurd textbook example, a beautiful, small, old, round, red Italian wooden dining table. I mean, no one's brain is processing an 8-tier checklist in real time during conversation.
No, they aren't consciously processing it. But native speakers obey this hierarchy by pure instinct. If you alter that sequence, if you say a wooden red small table, it sounds entirely broken. The human brain expects to receive the subjective data before the objective data.
That is a fascinating way to look at it. Our subjective experience of the world, our opinion, is processed faster than the physical dimensions.
Exactly.
But practically speaking, what is the survival tactic here? We rarely stack more than 2 or 3 adjectives anyway.
Well, the most practical high-yield tactic to extract from that massive hierarchy is simply this. Opinion always precedes size.
Opinion before size.
Yeah, that one principle covers the vast majority of daily descriptions. You will always say, a lovely small dog. You will never hear a small, lovely dog.
Right.
Prioritize the subjective opinion, then the physical size, and the rest usually just falls into place naturally.
Okay, let's shift the focus from the nouns to the engine of the sentence, the verbs. We have these pairs of action words that look similar. Sometimes they even translate to the exact same word in other languages, but they serve highly distinct functions in English.
Make and do are notorious for this.
Yes. Why is that so tricky?
Well, they represent a fundamental divide in how we interact with the world. Make is inherently about creation and production. It is bringing something into existence that was not there before you acted.
Like make a cake, make a decision, make a mess.
Right. The result is a new product.
Okay.
But do, however, is about execution. Performing an action, a task, or a routine where the activity itself is the focus, not a new physical product.
Like do the laundry or do your homework.
Or do a good job. Exactly.
But the frustration comes from the glitches in this logic, because we say, do me a favor. Conceptually, a favor feels like something you are producing or creating for someone else.
It does, which really highlights that language is organic and sometimes defies its own math. Do a favor is a fossilized chunk of language.
So the logic breaks down.
Yeah, and you simply have to absorb it as a fixed phrase.
Let's talk about another verb pair. The original materials didn't highlight it as much, but the outline brought up say versus tell.
Oh yes, that's a critical distinction.
How does the architecture work there?
Tell requires a direct personal object. You are transferring information to a specific recipient. So you have to say, she told me, or he told John.
You can't just say she told that.
Never. But say doesn't require that personal receiver. You just project the words outward. She said that the movie was good.
Got it. Now let's look at a pair where the logic is incredibly tight, but the perspective trips people up. Borrow and lend. I love the camera angle analogy for this transaction.
Oh, it perfectly captures the mechanics. Both verbs describe the exact same physical event, say the transfer of a pen from one person to another.
Right.
The verb you choose dictates where the listener is conceptually standing in the room.
Okay, so if the camera is mounted on the shoulder of the person receiving the pen, the verb is borrow. Can I borrow your pen?
Yes, it's a subjective pulling motion toward the speaker.
Right.
But if we pan the camera across the room to the person holding the pen, the verb shifts to lend. Can you lend me your pen? It's an outward objective pushing motion.
And the fatal flaw for many learners is blending those two camera angles into one shot.
Resulting in can you borrow me your pen, which forces the giver to also be the receiver.
It visually and logically collapses.
It's a spatial impossibility encoded in grammar.
Speaking of physical mechanics, we have to talk about what happens when two verbs collide. The choice between gerunds verbs ending in ing and infinitives to plus the verb.
Right. Certain primary verbs act as gatekeepers. They strictly dictate the form of the verb that follows them.
Give me an example.
If you use enjoy, it demands gerund. I enjoy reading. The system rejects I enjoy to read.
Right.
Conversely, want demands an infinitive. I want to travel.
But the truly brilliant part of the code is when a verb allows either form, but the meaning of physical reality completely flips depending on your choice. The verb stop is the ultimate example here. It acts as a movie pause button.
Right. Walk us through that mechanism.
Well, if you use the gerund and say, I stopped smoking, you are describing the end of a movie. The action of smoking is completely over. The screen fades to black, the credits roll.
The habit is finished.
Exactly. But if you use the infinitive and say, I stopped to smoke, you are describing hitting the pause button on the main feature maybe you were driving or walking in order to initiate the side action of smoking.
The structural choice between ing and to completely rewrites the reality of the scene. One means the action died, the other means the action just gave birth.
It is a stunning amount of power packed into two letters.
It really is, which is why mastering those patterns elevates your fluency so dramatically.
All right, we've mapped out the major structural pillars, time, nouns, and verbs. Now we need to sweep through the linguistic glue that holds the structure together and the tiny traps that cause chaos, particularly in written English. Let's start with prepositions.
Ugh. Prepositions are the bane of existence for anyone dissecting English.
They really are.
Largely because they often seem entirely arbitrary.
Though time prepositions in, on, at A do have a zoom lens logic to them, don't they?
They do if you visualize zooming in on a map of time. In is the widest possible shot, the macro level. We use it for massive containers of time, years, decades, months. In 2024, in July.
Then you zoom in one level tighter.
You reach on, this is the mid-level zoom, applying strictly to specific days and dates. On Monday, on the 4th of July.
Okay.
And finally, you zoom in as tight as the lens will go, right down to the clock face. That is at 3 p.m. at noon.
So the logic tracks perfectly there, but the moment prepositions attach themselves to adjectives or verbs, that logic just evaporates.
It vanishes completely. There is no spatial or temporal logic to explain why we are interested in something rather than interested on it.
Or why we are afraid of spiders rather than afraid from them.
Exactly. These are fixed phrasal realities. The unseen code demands them, and they basically must be internalized as complete, unbreakable units.
Let's talk about a mathematical failure in the code. Double negatives.
Oh, boy.
In many global languages, adding multiple negative words acts as a multiplier. It adds emotional emphasis to how much you don't want or don't know something.
But standard English processes negatives, like a strict algebraic equation.
Okay.
Two negatives mathematically cancel each other out, resulting in a positive.
So when someone says, I don't know nothing, the don't and the nothing obliterate each other. Mathematically, the sentence actually states that the person does know something.
Right. The code permits only one negative marker per clause to maintain its structural integrity. I don't know anything, or I know nothing.
That mathematical strictness also appears when we compare things, right? Comparatives and superlatives.
Yes, the system uses two different tools depending on the size of the word.
How does that work?
Short adjectives get the suffixes air and est. Tall, taller, tallest.
Right.
Longer, Multisyllable adjectives require the helper words. More and most. Beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful.
So the cognitive slip happens when the brain tries to apply both systems simultaneously for extra emphasis, creating the double comparative.
Saying more taller is a structural redundancy. You are applying two different operating systems to a single word. You must choose the tool that fits the length of the word and just trust it to do the job alone.
Makes sense. Let's transition into the written nightmares. The words that sound identical in the air but look entirely different on the page.
Oh, the sound-alikes.
Yes, and they instantly signal a lack of attention to detail if they're mixed up. The king of this category is its versus its.
The confusion stems from a contradiction in the rules. Usually, an apostrophe indicates possession, right? Like John's car.
So people naturally assume it's with an apostrophe means belonging to it.
Exactly. But the pronoun it operates under a different rule set. It's, without an apostrophe, is the possessive form. The dog wagged its tail.
And it's with an apostrophe is universally, exclusively a contraction.
Always. It is two words smashed together. It is or it has.
The expansion trick is the ultimate defense here, I think.
Tell them how it works.
When you are typing an email and you hesitate, force yourself to read the sentence with it is. If it is raining, makes sense, keep the apostrophe. But if the dog wagged his tail, sounds absurd, drop the apostrophe immediately.
It's foolproof.
Yeah.
And that same visual friction occurs with there, and there.
Yes. Our source material offered a brilliant touchstone sentence to lock all three of these into memory at once. It was, they're going to their house over there.
I love that. It perfectly maps the distinct functions. T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E is the contraction. They are going.
Right.
T-H-E-I-R is the possessive. The house belongs to them. And T-H-E-R-E is the spatial location. It points to a place.
Linking them in a single narrative sentence gives your brain a quick reference file to pull up when writing.
Absolutely.
How about the psychological trap of affect with an A versus affect with an E?
Well, this one requires identifying the action versus the outcome. Affect with an A is almost always the active verb. It is the action of influencing something. Lack of sleep will affect your performance.
And affect with an E is the noun.
Yes. It is the static result, the outcome of that influence. The effect of the medicine was immediate.
Action versus outcome. That clears up a lot of the fog. Okay, one last trap, and it's one that sparks a lot of debate. Who versus whom?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I read the breakdown in the sources, but I have to ask, is whom genuinely worth the cognitive effort anymore? It kind of feels like an artifact of a bygone era.
The friction you're feeling there is the battle between prescriptive grammar, how the rules say we should speak, and descriptive grammar, which is how humans actually speak.
Right.
Who functions as the subject doing the action? Whom functions as an object receiving the action? But in casual spoken English, whom is pretty much on life support. Most native speakers use who universally, and society just accepts it. But in high-level academic or professional writing, the distinction acts as a crucial sociolinguistic signal. Using whom correctly demonstrates a real mastery of formal structure.
So if you are writing a legal brief or a high-stakes cover letter, you need to deploy it.
You do?
What is the fastest cognitive shortcut to get it right without diagramming the sentence?
Use the he versus him replacement technique.
How does that work?
You quietly answer your own question. If the answer resolves to he, you use who. If the answer resolves to him, you use whom. Notice that both him and whom end in the letter M.
Oh, that is incredibly elegant. Let's test it. Who called you?
Okay.
The answer is he called me, not him called me. So who is correct?
Exactly. Now try the other side. To whom did you give the document?
The answer is I gave it to him, not I gave it to he. Since it's him, it must be whom. The M matches the M.
It instantly removes all the guesswork.
It really does. All right, let's step back and look at the vast architecture we've explored today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We started by diagnosing the cognitive working memory traps of subject-verb agreement.
Yeah.
We explored how tenses and conditionals force us to navigate real and hypothetical time. We unpacked the invisible psychology of why we treat advice as a mass, and why human opinion always precedes physical size in our descriptions.
And we looked at how verbs act like camera angles or pause buttons.
Yes. And finally, we locked down the strict mechanics of our written traps.
It is a massive, complex operating system.
Oh, it is.
But recognizing these patterns, just noticing the code functioning beneath the surface of your daily interactions,
Yeah.
is really the only way to truly master it. You don't achieve fluency by memorizing a textbook.
No, not at all.
You achieve it by understanding the why behind the rule and then paying attention to how people actually deploy it in the real world.
The awareness itself is the upgrade. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a broader philosophical question to chew on.
Okay.
We've established today that language is organic, right?
Very much so.
We've seen how native speakers universally break the fewer versus less rule in grocery stores, and how whom is slowly fading from spoken existence entirely.
The code is constantly under pressure from the people using it.
Which raises an incredible question about authority. At what point does a widespread universal grammar mistake cease to be a bug and simply become a new feature of the English language?
That is the big question.
Should we constantly fight to preserve the original strictness of the code to maintain clarity? Or do we eventually have to concede that language is essentially open source software completely governed by how human beings organically choose to speak in the moment?
It's the ultimate tension between the architects who design the system and the users who actually live in it.
It really is. Something to ponder the next time you hear a bug in the unseen code of a conversation, or perhaps the next time you find yourself standing in the checkout lane with 10 items or less. Keep analyzing, keep asking questions, and we will see you on the next deep dive.
If any of these mistakes felt familiar to you while listening, don't worry at all. These are some of the most common mistakes among English learners worldwide, and simply noticing them is a genuinely important first step toward correcting them naturally over time.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today, learning English and working through some of the trickiest grammar patterns in the entire language.
If this episode genuinely helped you, subscribe for more English learning podcasts like this one, and leave a comment telling us, which of these grammar mistakes do you personally struggle with the most?
We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.